I do agree with a lot of the things that have been said. So I will skip all those things about issues of concern and what is arising, because the issues raised within the FFD are almost very similar and overlapping. Just that a little bit that normally sometimes at a personal level I've got issues with the side events, but then I'm going to tell you why. I think allow me to just quickly I'm trying to see if I can build up the connection rather than just give us a timeline of this is what is happening and what is going on. I'll try to give us the connection. Very quickly, if you look at the SDG goals that have been developed, the SDG goals actually falls into 3 categories. And I don't know whether this was done by default or whether this was done unknowingly. The first set of 6 goals is actually what you call the MDG+. A lot of them basically address issues of what is called the unfinished business of the MDGs. The next set of goals actually addresses the structures and the transformation that is necessary to achieve the first 6. And then the last 2, even though we call them goals, if you look at goal 16 and goal 17, technically those are not goals. Those are the kind of global issues and the implementation mechanisms that are needed to make whatever the others work. And so sometimes I am hoping that in looking at financing, you are actually able to look at it within this lens. What I find very interesting that when you speak to member states, and if you go to the Sustainable Development website, you will see that as far as they're concerned, the process that we are dealing with began way back in 1972. And they are talking about the first conference they had, and they're talking about how their end product is the future we want. The civil society and sometimes the UN sometimes then has got a little bit of a shorter memory. A lot of what we are doing up is building from the MDGs, and then from the MDGs, all of us know all the processes which have gone. And it was incredible. The last time I was looking at this, I didn't know that there have been so many processes. So I just went back and said, oh, there was once a UN task team report, there was once a high-level panel report, there was a UN SDN report, there's a UN NGLS report, then after that with the expert whatever report on financing, we have got all that, and then the Secretary General came with a report, and somehow that will lead us somewhere into the future that we all want. The product that we are going to have, and if you see I've put two slides in one there. On the left is what I call the product, which is what you will have when the first draft comes out on the 30th of May. I do hope that whatever the draft comes on 30th of May, but with all those contentious issues, I'm not sure whatever they will manage, but my ambassador always has got something that he normally uses whatever to manage. If you look at it, I have used that African port very deliberately. At the very side of it are 4 specific issues that are going to inform whatever the final outcome document. There will be a section on the political commitment, which most of us call the chapeau, or whatever we used to it. And then there's development commitment, which are the goals and the targets, and then later on there will be the indicators. There will be the resources and the partnerships which are needed, which members, which many of us are discussing here. And then finally you've got the review and accountability. Those ones are held by 3 pillars, just like the African port. The first pillar is means of implementation, of which there's a bit of contention on how much of that goes into the FFD3 and how much of that remains. The other one is an accountability framework, which right now, unfortunately, is quite weak because nobody is very clear about what the HLPF will do, or even what the regional accountability or our mechanisms will do. And then the third pillar is one on data revolution and the social contract. And this is a lot about the role of citizens and the role of society. So it is important when we are looking at the financing that we don't just focus on the means of implementation and the FFD, but we also look at issues of how the accountability framework will look like and how the data revolution will look like. I've given you a few dates over there, and one of the dates one of the things that you need to notice about those dates are three. One is just a word of caution: don't go to Addis if you haven't gone to Addis. Don't go to New York if you haven't gone to New York. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because if you look at the way that the processes are running and the way that that they've run, if we put too much emphasis on Addis as an event and we put too much energy in going there, chances are we'll actually achieve nothing. Because by the time, the way that the discussions have been going, by almost end of May or mid-June, the document will be almost done, dusted, and completed. And there will be very, very little for us to go and do in Addis if we are all rallying about getting 200 people whatever to Addis. The same thing has been happening to the way that the process has been going on in New York. If we wait until the 30th of May and we have got the first draft, I can tell you, for those of us who saw what was happening last year, it's extremely difficult to change content in a draft. Extremely difficult. So once we have got a draft coming out on the 30th of May, the door is almost to a very large extent locked. And there's very little whatever that we can do. So I would want to push us a lot to try and see how much we can do between now and then. Now, here is what we will have.
Your speed dating is almost up now.
Okay.
Time, so.
Here is what we will have on the 30th of January. So I've told you what we'll have on the 30th of May, which looks like a very neat document. But if we are not careful, we'll have very many scattered stones on the 30th of January, because that's when the indicators will actually be completed. And here is the reason why. Let's remember three very quick things. Development is about power. Development is about the social contract, meaning that it's about citizens. And then number two is that somehow all of us seated in this room, we are slaves to something. We are either slaves to our own selves, slaves to our own intellect, our own biases, our own principles, our own views. And one of the challenges that we need to reflect on in closing is that if we do not find the connection with the citizens right now, with the realities of the challenges which are facing the citizens right now, it will be extremely difficult for us to connect with them when it comes to the implementation of the SDG agenda. And one of the challenges that I just want to pose to you and to pose to all of us is, let us focus on how we can connect with the citizen advocacy right now. Let us focus on how we can reconnect with the community right now. Let us focus on how we can reconnect with the society right now. That way, when the time comes for us to handle the implementation, which is going to be the key part of this process, we will be ready. Two things that I just want to leave with you. I was just watching the movie Selma when I was coming here. And then before that, I just read the World Development Report, which is Mind, Society, and Behavior. And one of the things that emerges inside there is the strategies and the tactics that are being used by governments to deliberately reorganize the way we work as civil society, focus us too much on processes, and in the process, very deliberately disconnecting us from the rest of society, making it extremely difficult for us to now go back to that society at the time of implementation. I would want us to watch over it, and my hope is that when it comes to the implementation, it's not just the civil society that will be ready, but the society also will be ready. Thanks.